Ruth, how did you find carnivore?
I have a friend who lives in Florida, and she'd been talking about the carnivore diet during the summer of 2024. And I actually traveled to visit her, and she was very concerned about my health. And so she continued to occasionally share videos about the carnivore diet, and I pretty much ignored her. I kind of felt like it was just too hard. I had too many things going on that just couldn't do it. But um, eventually I came across a video where Coach Lisa was being interviewed, and she talked about having had fibromyalgia and neuropathy, and and that it had healed. And I was like, wait a minute. Now I need to know more about this diet because I was dealing with fibromyalgia and neuropathy and a host of other problems. So I watched that video around the middle of November, and I started cutting out carbs November 20, and I was fully carnivore by November 29. And I've only cheated like 5 times since then. So I'm almost to my 1 year anniversary.
Wow. So I guess if you're 1 year in, you must have noticed some good changes.
Yeah, I am not the person I was in the summer of 2024. In the summer of 2024, I traveled to Florida, like I said, but it was so extremely difficult. I weighed 298 pounds. I had to buy business class seats because I couldn't fit in any of the cheap seats. And by the time I got to our first stop, my feet were swelling, my ankles were swelling, I was exhausted. And by the time we were traveling home, I had to get wheelchair assistance. My knees were killing me, my hips were killing me. And when I got home, I was pretty much bedridden for about 2 weeks. Now, last summer, I went with my son. He moved to North Carolina, and the last minute, his traveling buddy wasn't able to go. And I went, well, I'm free. And my son was eating carnivore, and I was eating carnivore. So he liked that idea. So we took off like 3 days later. Now, I live in Washington State. We drove all the way to North Carolina. So basically, from the Pacific Ocean to the Atlantic Ocean. And we did it in 7 days. And I went swimming every day. We went go karting. We played disc golf. We had a blast. And I stayed with a friend for a couple days and swam in the ocean and kayaked for the first time. And then I flew home all by myself in an economy seat. And when I came home, I rested for about 2 days, and I turned around, packed up again, and went camping for 10 days. Yeah. Like, there's absolutely no comparison of myself a year ago to what I was last summer or now.
Wow. So the fibromyalgia and the neuropathy is completely gone?
Completely gone. The neuropathy has been very slow. I was able to wean off Lyrica over the summer, and I had been on a 350 milligram dose. Basically, when it kicked in, I couldn't function. It was like I was completely stoned every night, which can be a problem, if something comes up in emergency. But took me about 3 months to wean off. The neuropathy had pretty much gone away, but the side effects of weaning off the medication were pretty atrocious. So I had to do it really slow. And up until about even maybe 2 weeks ago, I occasionally feel like my feet are hot at night, but I haven't had that in a couple weeks. So I think maybe it's completely gone now. My feet used to feel like I dipped them in boiling water at night. It was awful. I would sit up at night and pack my feet in ice packs. It's really hard to go back to sleep after you pack your feet in ice packs. That's why I was on such a high dose.
Wow. I it's amazing how something so severe that you have to pack your feet in ice packs can almost, I mean, it's taken time, but
Hmm.
almost just be turned off.
Yeah, I didn't think that it would ever go completely away.
Mm.
And my health started declining 10 years ago. Um, It started um, when my daughter's first baby was diagnosed with trisomy 13. And they said since he was a boy that he probably would not live. And he was stillborn. And that just shattered me. I had served my Lord my entire life. And after that day, I turned my back on God. I shut down. And then we had adopted a little girl who was disabled, and she was more disabled than we anticipated. So that year, her care was really hard. I had a lot of almost sleepless nights. And when I was taking her to Children's Hospital in a rush, I didn't have her stroller set up right and it collapsed. And I did basically a front roll over her in the stroller and fell most of my weight on my lower back. And later, I was diagnosed like years later, like, oh, you had a fracture. So I'd actually fractured a vertebrae in that fall. And I went through years and years of severe chronic back pain, just debilitating back pain. And then I started to develop fibromyalgia. One of the most common, there's like a few reasons people get fibromyalgia. One is a traumatic thing like an accident. Another is a traumatic loss, like a death of a loved one. And there's a few others. But so there I had two of them. And I started developing just systemic pain, inflammation, feeling awful. So I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia. And I remember meeting with someone who had fibromyalgia and basically came away going, my life is over. Just plan on being homebound and I'm never going to feel good again. And that began depression, really severe depression. On top of grief, physical problems, I actually became suicidal and I went on antidepressants. And over quite a few years during that time, I was losing weight. I was using keto and I'd lost 70 pounds over 3.5 years. But when I went on antidepressants, I gained almost all 70 pounds back in about 4 months. Talk about depressing. Yeah. I did try and wean off the antidepressants very quickly, but it took me longer to get off them than I'd actually been on them. And then by then the damage was done. I'd gotten all the weight on me. And at that point, the depression was overwhelming. The pain I was experiencing every day was terrible. I didn't mention it, but starting the night that my grandson was stillborn, I didn't sleep. I could not sleep. After 3 days, I called my doctor and I said, I got to have something. All I do is think about what I just went through. I can't sleep. So that began a struggle with insomnia that I have not won. Well, I didn't win until this year, actually, just even the last couple months. So, on top of everything else, I couldn't sleep. I hurt. I was gaining weight. And then in 2019, I had a heart attack. Yeah. And it wasn't a normal heart attack. It was arterial spasm. It took them a while to figure out why I'd had a heart attack. I was actually singing a solo and playing the piano in church, and I started having these chest pains. It was like thump, and then I just started hurting. No one knew. I totally covered it up. I played for another soloist and sat down next to the one other pianist in the church and said, I'm not feeling good. I got to go. I was literally having a heart attack. I'd had 2 panic attacks before that seemed like heart attacks, so I thought I was just having a panic attack. So that brought me into all the heart medications. And I also was struggling with stomach issues through those years. That was a lot of stress. They did a upper endoscopy, and I was diagnosed with erosive gastritis, which is ulcers on steroids. Basically, they said over 50% of my stomach lining had burned away. So I was a mess inside and out. I don't think there was much of anything of me that was functioning properly. And I still had children at home. I was still trying to manage my home. And I'd had a home business. I had to sell that. I couldn't maintain it anymore. And So I'll jump forward to last summer. The accumulative damage of all those years, I was on 17 daily prescriptions last summer. You ready for a list? So, first of all, by the time I was at my peak weight last summer, I was categorized as severely obese. My BMI was 42.8. I suffered from insomnia, fibromyalgia, hypertension. I'd had a heart attack. I had neuropathy. Oh, I forgot. Ah, this is a big one. 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, I started having hip pain. The only thing I remembered was one night I tried to kick my blankets off and I heard a pop in my hip. And I walked on it for 2 months and it just kept getting worse and worse. And I did an MRI, had an MRI done, and I found out I fractured my hip kicking my blankets off. I had severe osteoporosis. So that's another diagnosis, osteoporosis. I had restless leg syndrome, systemic inflammation. I had fluid retention, especially in my left leg, chronic fatigue, degenerative disc disease, osteoarthritis in my hands, knees, and hips, microvascular angina, that's chest pain, multiple giant lipomas. Found that out that fall when I was thinking about carnivore, that I thought I had hernias, but they were actually giant lipomas the size of a softball. And the surgeon wanted to cut them out. And then when I thought I was going on the diet, I'm like, wait, I did some research and they can go away when you lose weight. So I avoided a major surgery. I had high cholesterol, skin tags, sleep apnea. I was on a CPAP machine. That's gone. Chronic sinusitis. I'm allergic to dust. I also had asthma from my allergies. I had severe dry skin. I mean, literally, I would take my clothes off and skin would be flying around the room. It was horrid. I had muscle loss and weakness, chronic systemic candida infections. I had dry mouth. I lost several teeth. I did talk about the erosive gastroenteritis, acid reflux, actinic keratosis, which is like precancer. I'd had like 5 of them burned off. Osteochondral lesion of the medial condyle. After the birth of my last baby, I hurt my knee. You know, your joints are loose after having a baby. And I chunked the cartilage all the way through the bone. And they said there was no way to fix it other than to shatter my femur to have blood fill the hole. But I have had absolutely no pain from that for several years. I don't know how it healed, but it's a permanent defect, but it's there. And so those are my physical things. But then there was cognitive problems. I lived with brain fog. I had memory troubles. 1.5 years, I went in to do testing to see if I had Alzheimer's or what's that? I can never remember the name for the word that means you can't remember things.
Dementia.
Dementia. Thank you. Maybe I have it. No. Anyway, I tested fine. She said it's just the brain fog from the fibromyalgia. I was having panic attacks. I had complex PTSD. I had depression and I was claustrophobic. And then I also had, I was unable to do math. And I was a mathematician. Like in high school, I went to math competitions for the state. And I couldn't even do math for like playing games with my family. And I've played the piano since I was 4. And between the hand arthritis and brain zaps, I would be playing the piano and I would forget what key I was in. And you can't do that if you're playing for congregational playing. You can't just stop and take a minute, you know. So I couldn't play the piano and reading books became very painful. Just the movement of my eyes would make it difficult to read. So, and then spiritually, I've been a Christian since I was little and always followed the Lord. And after the death of my grandson, I turned away from the Lord, and it's been a huge struggle all these years. Just couldn't seem to get my footing again. But that has all changed just in the last 3 months. And it's all of it. The carnivore isn't just about losing weight. It isn't just about healing the body. It's about healing all of me. I feel better than I have in decades. there's just no comparison of who I am today to who I was a year ago or longer.
Wow. Um, like when you talk about so much, it's understandable to imagine how like you spent a period of time on antidepressants and like because when one thing goes wrong with your health, I mean that's depressing. But
Hmm.
when so much happens and it's basically all at once, it's it just must be so overwhelming.
It was. And at the end of the summer of 2024, um, let me back up just a little bit. In the spring of 2024, my disabled daughter fell onto my shoulder, onto my arm, and it caused tears in every single tendon in my shoulder, even my bicep attachment. And so that whole summer, I had very limited use of my arm, and I had rotator cuff surgery on September 24. And then about 2.5 weeks later, I just like shivered in my sleep, and one of them retore. And then I had trigger finger surgery in October, and I was facing having shoulder surgery again. And so I had 3 surgeries: September, October, and January. And I started the carnivore diet between the last 2 surgeries. So and I didn't even have the giant lipoma surgery, which I thought I was going to have. Being that sick, that unhealthy, and facing 3 major surgeries. Well, the hand surgery wasn't major, but 2 major surgeries. I really began to think I wasn't going to see the end of the year. Like, I really was beginning to think I needed to start planning my funeral. I mean, I'm just not going to live. And um, so, kind of carnivore was the last ditch. I'm like, I'm dying anyway. If it kills me, I'm going to die anyway. But it was the
Uh,
one thing that fixed everything.
yeah, and when you say fixed everything, like that list you've just gone through there, is it like you've basically been able to go, "Well, that's no longer, no longer, no longer."
That's
It's like you've
that's
checked it
kind of
all
the
off?
crazy part. I do have a few things left. Um, oh, I didn't even give you my list of prescriptions. I was on 17 of them. But today, I still have weight to lose. I weigh 211 pounds as of yesterday. So I've lost 87 pounds now. So I'm still class 1 obese, but I only have to lose 2 pounds now to get into overweight. So, and if I lose 39 pounds, I'll be in healthy range. I still have hypothyroidism, and I just had some diagnostic testing done. So I'm still on that medication. I started hormone replacement therapy um, around the time of those surgeries, and I'm still taking that. And I'm going to keep taking that till I get to my ideal weight. And I may keep taking it forever, but I might do a trial of going off of it. But so those are three prescription pills that I take every day, and then I still have some leftover muscle relaxants that I do take occasionally because sometimes I still do have muscle cramps. But recently I got a TENS unit. I got it free from physical therapy program through my insurance. And I've been using that more and not having to rely on like Tylenol and muscle relaxants. So
What is the TENS unit?
it's a little electronic device that is placed on a pad, and it has like a gel adhesive. I didn't think I'd be able to use it because I'm allergic to um, like um, like gloves, latex. I'm allergic to latex, but this is gel, and I'm not allergic to it. So it goes on your skin, and it just conducts a little electric pulse that kind of comes and goes, and it basically makes your muscles relax. It's not painful at all, and I I'm so glad I got it because it's really been helpful. In fact, last night, for the first time, and as far as I can remember, I had a good night's sleep. I didn't take any Tylenol. I didn't take an over the counter sleep aid. I did not take any muscle relaxants. And I didn't take any Benadryl. And I slept. But I do have one problem with this carnivore diet: 8 hours, I'm awake and I'm going. I cannot stay in bed. A year ago, I was in bed 12 to 14 hours a day. And when I got up, I had no energy. And now I'm like, go, 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 go. Most days I have more um, energy, like vim and vigor, than my body can sustain. I push myself too hard a lot.
Wow. Um, and so have have you spoken to your doctor? I guess getting off a lot of prescriptions, you've had conversations. Is your doctor surprised?
Yeah, I kind of see it. I definitely see it as a God thing now, but I switched to a new doctor about 3 years ago, two and a half. I didn't know much about her, but I knew that she was in a clinic closer to my home. And when I went to her, I was like, have you heard of the carnivore diet? And she goes, actually, I have. I can't remember if it was her sister or a friend that was on it. And she was had a positive attitude toward it. And so she's helped me phenomenally on weaning off because I tried to go off Lyrica too fast and it made me really sick. Um, so there was quite a few really difficult medications to get off, and she helped me teeter down, even like microdosing to get off of those. And every time I've gone in the last year, she's just like her jaw is on the floor. She's just, so happy. She's like, you made my day. How often do doctors get to see someone who's there because they're feeling fantastic, right? So, yeah, I was very blessed to have a doctor who's 100% in support of this.
That's
And I was
awesome.
supposed to go on cholesterol medications. This was probably 6 years ago. I had high cholesterol and I had a really bad reaction to statins. And we tried one, and within like 3 months, I became very feeble. I could hardly get out of a chair, systemic pain, more than I already had. And then tried a different one. I went off of it with 24 hours, I felt better. 48, it was so much better. And then tried another one, same thing, but it happened faster. Tried a third one. And then they're like, well, the only thing left is injections. I'm like, so if I have side effects, if this is a yearly injection, will I have side effects for a year? And she goes, well, yeah. Like, no, thank you. That sounds terrible. So I haven't been taking statins all this time, even though everyone's like, you should be on statins. Did take something called red rice yeast for like the year before I started carnivore and a little bit into my carnivore journey. And it did bring my numbers down a little bit, like not into normal. But um, I got my blood tested, I think 3 months ago. And all my numbers are either in normal range or just above normal range. So they've really come down. And I know that's not everyone's experience on the carnivore diet, but for me, that has been.
And at this stage, like the 3 months ago, your triglycerides were okay?
The triglycerides were just above normal. Nothing was extremely elevated. And, who knows if those numbers are actually like maybe for some people that's normal, right?
Yeah. So if your doctors noticed this big change in you, the people around you must have also noticed it, like just from losing weight. They must be like, "What are you doing? Tell me about this."
Yeah, I think the person who most has been affected by this is my youngest daughter. I had my last baby when I was 48, and she's my miracle baby. She was born by emergency C-section, and she only weighed 4 pounds, 14 ounces. She's been healthy her whole life. But, she's experienced a mom who's been very sick and very unable to be a good mom. And since my health returned, especially over this summer, we've had some really great experiences together. We took her with us to Spokane to visit my son who had a new baby. And she and I went swimming every day. We had a blast. We just hung out and got to know each other. We went to an amusement park called Silverwood in Idaho. And I went on 4 roller coaster rides and had a blast. We were there for about 10 hours on my feet the whole time. And we just made a million memories. And so now I'm able to do things with her. I'm able to be the mom that she's really never had. And I'm able to be the grandmother I've never been able to be. I've got 10 grandkids and I babysit them regularly. And I got a job. I
Oh,
have been
wow.
unemployable for a long time, and I just started feeling so much better. And I had an old friend who needed a care provider. And so I got trained, got qualified. So 3 hours every weekday, I'm helping her. I do her housework. I wash her dishes. I help her with things. And then I come home and do the same thing here with my family. I could have never done that before this diet. So,
So, I mean, that on its own is a big selling point of carnivore, right? It's
right?
just like your energy is gonna go through the roof.
Yeah. Now, last month, in October, when I started that job, that was challenging. When I work at home, I can take a break when I need to, pace myself. But in a job, you know, you only have a certain amount of hours. You got to get a lot of things done. And I also, about the same time, was started snacking on almonds. And after about 3 weeks, I was really snacking on almonds. It was like addictive. It was like, oh, I like that crunch. And but I started noticing that my hand arthritis was hurting. I had indigestion. My digestive system had slowed down. I was bloating. My weight loss had stalled. I didn't have the energy I had. And I chalked it up to the new job. But then I was like, yeah, I really need to stop eating those almonds. So I quit taking them on Wednesday. And by Saturday, my energy was back. My hands didn't hurt anymore. My bloating was gone. I'm like, okay, I need to stay away from almonds.
The thing is as well, like, your body, once you reintroduce something like that, your body's very quickly adapts to, "Oh, we need more of this. Let's go. Come on, keep pumping it into me." And, you're
It's
kind of
terrible.
oblivious to this. You're just going, "Oh, the crunch is pretty good. Oh, that's cool."
Yeah, I know. In the first few months too, I struggle with that need to chew. And I'd been a gum chewer because I had this dry mouth problem. And that was a challenge to stop chewing gum. But I I hear people talk about food noise, like this constant brain thinking about food. And when I finally got off gum, and I was probably 6 months in, that food noise really died down. Um, because I wasn't looking for the chewing all the time. And my biggest problem for the most part of my carnivore diet journey is that I'm not hungry. I rarely get hungry. I might feel a little weak or empty, but I never really get a stomach hungry. And early on in the diet too, I struggled with um, not wanting to eat. And if I did kind of force myself to eat, I'd feel very sick to my stomach and I couldn't eat very much. And that's when I started, listening to my body, like everybody says. And I just stopped eating for a while. I was like, oh, I'm just going to drink my electrolytes, have a coffee with some protein in it, eat some butter. So I call them butter fasts. And I did two 72-hour fasts in that first 6 weeks of the carnivore. And I think my little journey into the almond territory kind of messed me over because then I kind of got back into that. Oh, I can't eat breakfast. And the other thing. So last week I did do some, I'm just going to wait till I'm hungry to eat. And now it's kind of resolved itself. I was able to eat breakfast this morning.
So, on that, how are you typically eating day to day now?
Um, since I got my job, I'm definitely better about eating breakfast, and I've worked my way from barely barely being able to eat 2 eggs to 4 eggs. I put bacon bits on it, and I put little drops of cream cheese and some shredded cheese on top of that. Um, that's what I have for breakfast. And I have a coffee usually beforehand because some mornings I struggle with low blood pressure. I was on 2 high blood pressure meds. That was a journey to get off those. I almost passed out a few times as we were figuring out I needed to go off of them. But my blood pressure right now is usually between 115 to 120 over 60 to 65. So, yeah. So sometimes I try to eat coffee first so I don't have a drop in blood pressure when I eat because your body goes to process the food. And I've created my own super coffee. Like people talk about bullet coffee. Well, this is like superwoman coffee. So it's coffee with 2 scoops of collagen, a scoop of whey powder, and a scoop of creatine. And then I sweeten it with some stevia. And I blend that all up and I add some heavy whipping cream. And that's kind of a meal all in itself. If I know I'm not going to eat breakfast, I'll add a scoop of egg white powder, and that brings it up to 40 grams of protein. That's when it becomes superwoman coffee because it's like a whole meal in a cup. So that's morning. I tend to be 2 meals a day. I'm trying to move my dinner earlier to like between 3 and 4. And that will usually be, a big chunk of meat or taco meat. When we have tacos, I'll put cheese and sour cream on top. And I do have some meat sticks, Scandinavian meat sticks and cheese that I use sometimes if I can't eat a meal, but I need sustenance. And I do electrolytes every day. I think I was 3 months in and I'm like, oh, I'm all adjusted. Everything's great. I don't need these electrolytes. And I quit taking them. And after about I don't know, a week and a half, 2 weeks, I started getting dizzy 24/7. And it took me a while to figure out what was going on. And I looked up what can make you dizzy all the time. Well, one was too much electrolytes. And the other one was too little. So I'm like, oh, well, I'll have to go back to my electrolytes. And it took about 4 days, but it went away. I mean, it was debilitating dizziness. Like I'd have to hang on to walls to walk. So it wasn't a minor amount of dizziness. So I take my electrolytes every day.
I guess now that you're not eating as frequently, and sometimes you don't feel hungry and that kind of thing, like, the food noise just goes. So you've just freed up so much time during the day by simply by doing carnivore, right?
Oh, for sure. I mean, before the diet, it's like I'm eating this. What am I going to have for my snack? I have my snack. What am I going to have for lunch? What do we have for dinner tonight? What are we going to have for dessert after dinner? I mean, it's like this constant brain space taken up by what am I going to eat next? And I do have to do a little bit of planning because if I come home from work really hungry and tired, it's difficult for me to find something to eat. So we've been trying to make more food at dinner so that there's leftovers for those days that I come home from work and I'm really hungry and I don't want to take the time. Especially a lot of my work time is cooking and washing dishes. So when I come home, I really don't want to start cooking and washing dishes.
It's you remind me of, the mechanic is always the one with the car that needs to be worked on, but never is, you know?
That's one other thing that's really been a huge change in our lives. Um, when I was sick, you can't take good care of your home. We got behind on dishes. We were eating convenience foods. My groceries were being delivered. Everything was popping in the microwave. And now I do all the groceries in person, so we're saving money. Let's say carnivore is expensive. No, let me tell you, if you're eating good meat, you're eating less food. There's so much of that fluff food is expensive. Um, and my house is staying tidy. Now, granted, I don't have little kids at home anymore, but I do babysit my grandkids and it does get tidy again. And for the most part, I'm able to keep things maintained. I have everyone in the house helping out as well, just because I have some young adults living at home. But it's been a real, like, I figured out that maybe I wasn't such a bad housekeeper. I was just outnumbered because I had a large family. It seemed like I always had toddlers around making messes. But it's calming to be in a home that's organized and tidy. And I'm allergic to dust. So it's definitely in my best interest to keep the house dust free. And that's really hard to do if your house is cluttered.
Yeah, I feel like those things almost become a self-perpetuating problem, like if you're not eating well, then you're more likely to order foods that are not good for you, which perpetuates the, not living in the ideal environment that you want to live in. Like you're not washing or you're not cleaning as much as you do then.
Yeah,
Those things exacerbate how bad you're feeling. So you have to get comfort foods, which make you feel worse again. And it's just this snowball that keeps getting bigger
for
and bigger.
sure. Well, and now all of our garbage goes out in one can. A year ago, we were 2 cans a week. I mean, paper plates, paper cups, plastic, because who wanted to wash dishes and, all the convenience foods comes with packaging. You get a slab of meat, you have a little saran wrap and maybe some styrofoam. You know what I mean? It's just the amount of packaging is so much less.
Yeah. So I guess at this point there's no going back for you. This is it.
No, I mean, some people think of a diet as, oh, I'll go on this diet, I'll lose the weight, and then I can eat the way I want. But I have no desire to cheat. The last time I can remember cheating was I had 2 licorices when I was at Spokane with my daughter. Um, I just, I'm not tempted. It's, I look at those foods, one, and go, pain. I'm like, no, I don't want to hurt again. And even just this week, my 19-year-old daughter works at a bakery and it's for a coffee shop in our area. And there's this one cookie that they make every Christmas, and it's dark chocolate with peppermint. And it's been my favorite go to every year. And she had one not only with her, but in the car with me, and I could smell it. And I was just like, no, I'm I'm not interested. I mean, I know it'd taste good, but I don't want to go there. I don't want to start back in. We did make carnivore sugar cookies this week. I'm really happy about that. Courtney Luna put up a recipe recently. It's really good.
What's in the carnivore sugar cookies? Like
Um,
literally sugar?
no. So it's heavy whipping cream, gelatin, an egg, vanilla, and her recipe had monk fruit and stevia, but I used allulose and stevia. And actually, I turned on the oven to preheat, and I had the mix ready on the cookie sheet, ready to go before the oven even got hot. So it was super simple. Highly recommend trying it.
Yeah. When you mentioned that peppermint cookie, that Christmas cookie, the thing that comes to mind straight away when you talked about your reaction to it is, I mean, what this is the ultimate that people are going for. This is you've broken the emotional connection you had with that food because you can look at it and go, yeah, I know it looks and probably will taste good, but there are too many consequences.
Yeah, I learned that with the almonds last month. I don't want to go back.
So you haven't had anyone say to you anything like, "So when are you gonna start eating normally again?"
I think there's discussions off and on. My husband actually has been on the diet with me the whole time too, and he's lost over 30 pounds. And he wasn't very unhealthy beforehand, but he has been able to go off of some medications, and his high blood pressure is much better than it was. And he struggles with anxiety, and he says it's almost gone. So he plays disc golf, and his game has really improved. He's throwing farther. He's like, well, now I have to figure out what disc to throw. I'm like, yeah, that's a bad problem. And I've actually started disc golfing with him, so it's improved our marriage. Um, yeah, the carnivore diet has really improved our marriage, so that's pretty crazy. But I forgot where I was going with that. What was your question?
Just if anyone had said, "When are you gonna start eating normally again?"
Oh yeah. See, he's at his ideal weight now. And so he's kind of in a completely different place from me. And so he has toyed a little bit with what he can get away with. We use the Keto Mojo to measure glucose and ketones. And he's tried some different normal fluff garbage foods. And he realizes he really has to watch it. They have to be few and far between, or it'll kick him out of ketosis. Um, and for myself, what I envision myself when I'm at my ideal weight is enjoying maybe some blueberries, avocados. Um, but, of course, watching and listening to my body, see how it makes me feel. Is it causing food noise again? Um, enjoying whole foods that aren't terribly convoluted by, GMO and stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh, nice. So, if you were giving someone advice about starting carnivore, let's say a friend says, "Okay, I'm willing to do 90 days. Give me the lowdown. What do I need to do?" What advice or tips would you offer based on your experience?
First of all, listen to your body. Um, Second of all, be fully committed. No cheating. Just be 100% on, and be willing to not only listen to your body but pay attention to it. Like follow through. Like if some people can't handle dairy, well, then you need to not have dairy. Um, and watch a lot of videos. There's so much information out there, and everybody seems to have their own journey. Early on, I was doing the 80/20, comparing the fat to protein, and I was losing weight very slowly. Um, I don't really, I'm probably more like a 70/30, but I don't track it very closely anymore. Um, I do like my butter bites. That's my treat. And I keep them in the freezer so they have crunch. So there's my little crunch. But, um, find what works for you, experiment with different things, what foods work. Some people can't do eggs, but, um, just be committed for sure 90 days and track. I have to show you something really quick. This is my list. I don't know if you can see that. I wrote down everything I was dealing with the day I started carnivore. And I went back 3 months later and started crossing off the list. Half of it was gone. Or I could write better or improved. And it's so easy. Even now, the last week to prepare for this interview, I even went into my medical record. I'm like, oh, I forgot I even had that. And like when I made that list, my brain fog was so bad I didn't write down fibromyalgia. That should have been at the top of the list. So I think analyzing where you are when you start and kind of tracking your improvements, I think that's huge. That's just huge because then that'll give you the incentive to keep going. And I would agree, 90 days minimum. I didn't
Yeah.
really see. Now, I did have surgery just 6 weeks after starting the diet because I had that rotator cuff done again. And then I got the stomach flu from, it's the worst stomach flu I've ever had. I really think it was like influenza B. Cause we were all laid out badly. And then I was 7 days out of my surgery and I got that. And then, that was the vomiting kind, although I didn't throw up. I was just super sick. And then I got over that about a week and I got influenza A, the cough, the I had sinus congestion, I developed a sinus infection, I had bronchitis. I mean, I was sick. So by the end of February, I had the surgery January 10th. By the end of February, I could barely walk from my bed to my toilet, and that was only like 15 feet. So I was super weak, but I didn't cheat during that whole time I was sick. I did bone broth, chicken noodle soup, and I'd scoop around and not get the noodles. But after that, that's when things really started to improve. And that really has been the last time I've been sick. Before carnivore diet, I would get everything everybody anywhere had that was even remotely close to me. And they'd have it for 3 or 4 days, and I'd have it for 3 or 4 weeks, and always end up in a secondary infection and antibiotics. I constantly had sinus infections. So I've had little bugs like, I feel like I'm fighting something for 3 days and then I'm fine. And I haven't been really sick since February. That's just mind boggling.
Yeah, I've noticed what seems to happen with sickness is it feels like you're getting something,
Hmm.
and it might last for an evening or a day or a
Hmm.
couple of days, and it feels like, "Oh, I'm gonna be coughing, I'm gonna be sneezing, blah, blah, blah,"
Yeah,
and then it just disappears.
right. And for me, I'm like, oh man, this blows my next 3 weeks, right? Like, and they're like, wait, 4 days later, I'm like, oh, I feel fine. What? What just happened? Yeah, it's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah, I think one of the important points you made there is to when you do get started, if you're consciously starting with carnivore, writing down all the problems that you
Hmm.
have, whether it's back pain or fibromyalgia, whatever it is really important because when you are 3 months, 6 months, 12 months in, and you're feeling good, looking back at that list is important because when you look back at the list, you actually are reminded of how bad things were because you
Right.
get to the point you're feeling so good that you forget what it was like. And then
Mhm.
it's easier to slip back into, well, I'll just have that chocolate cake or I'll just have those fried foods or whatever, you know?
Another thing I kind of was thinking about, like, I don't know, a month ago, um, like if I could talk to myself in that summer of 2024, what are you holding on to that's preventing you from experiencing new life? Like, I liked my sugar, I liked my carbs, it was my comfort food. Um, but what would I be willing to give up to experience healing and an entirely new life? And it's not just physical. If I didn't lose any pounds, I'd still be doing it because of all the healing I've experienced. And it's not just physical healing. I've had emotional healing. I've had psychological healing. I've had spiritual healing. It's, I just, I am astounded at how much this diet has affected my entire life and the lives of my family because of my change. Even if nobody else went on the diet, just my ability to be a mom, be a grandmom, that's the world to me.
Yeah. So Ruth, if people want to reach out to you, do you have social media or any other way of getting in contact?
Yeah, my handle is from feeble to fabulous, and I have an Instagram account, and I started my own YouTube channel just Saturday. So it's brand baby new. One of my
Oh,
videos already has over 1,000 views, which blew me away.
oh, that's awesome. Um, yeah, I'll link to your Instagram and your YouTube in the show notes.
Cool.
Ruth, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me. I really wanted to share my story because somebody out there, maybe more than one, needs to hear what I've gone through because I want this for everybody.